Hey guys, welcome to the Fighters channel. Usyk's manager appreciated how the preparations for the rematch with Anthony Joshua are going. Klimas spoke about the future fight of the Ukrainian champion. The manager of the WBA, WBO, IBF and IBO heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk, Klimas, spoke about the preparation of his client for a rematch with Anthony Joshua. The functionary assured that the Ukrainian boxer should approach the rematch with a Briton in optimal conditions. However, things are going fantastically for Alexander. He is preparing. We will be ready for a rematch. Usyk's manager said in a boxing social comment. Recall that in the first fight in September 2021, Usyk defeated Joshua by unanimous decision, winning the championship bouts. It was expected that the rematch of the boxers will take place in July, in the Middle East or in the United Kingdom. Early Anthony Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn called a likely date for a rematch with Alexander Usyk. Hearn, the promoter of former world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua, spoke about his words rematch with WBA, WBO and IBF title holder Alexander Usyk. According to the functionary, the duel will most likely take place in July. We will fight in July. Of course, July 23 is the date that is being discussed. Now it is the most likely. Hearn said that the fight will take place in the Middle East and in the United Kingdom. We are in the final stages of negotiations with a number of locations in the Middle East and in the United Kingdom. We also looked at America, but I don't think the fight will take place there. During the week of the Saul Alvarez-Dmitry will fight, I would like to announce more news, Hearn said. Former world heavyweight champion Berman Steven believes that for the formidable American puncher Deontay Wilder, there is only 1 point left in a duel with Anthony Joshua. I think the only fight left for Wilder in terms of money is the fight with Joshua. I don't think there are actual fights for him besides that. It also depends on how Joshua returns. If he beats Usyk, it will be worth it, and if not, it's not worth it. Else I will take my words back. It might be worth it, since they will both be coming back after the defeat, so this fight should be watched. Other than that, I don't see anyone else. As for me, Wilder doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. Since he took the title away from me, Deontay has done a great job, holding it for 5 or 6 years. Now it's Tyson Fury's turn, Steven told the Planet Sport website. Ex-absolute heavyweight Lennox jokingly suggested that the current WBC champion Tyson Fury wouldn't have coped with him if they had met in the ring, each in the prime of life. The veteran was asked about this on the Talk TV channel. Lennox, 56, who has not boxed for almost 20 years, said it was a lie. I refuse to answer such an easy question. Listen, Tyson Fury is a great champion. He moves well and hits hard. He has a great job, and now an uppercut, and all he has to do is clean up the division, as I did in my time, and beat the next generation, said Lewis. Friends, before starting to watch this video, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel. If you really enjoy the content, then please subscribe to my channel and keep watching the videos. If you are subscribed, then receive notifications about the release of new videos. You do not even have to look for anything personally. I really want to get 10,000 subscribers on my channel. I'm trying very hard absolutely every day, and I need your support. Your likes, comments, reposts, social networks. Thanks to everyone who subscribes to my channel, you are my support. Thank you so much. WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury continues to assure everyone that he is retiring from boxing, but it seems that his team doesn't intend to officially confirm this yet and give up the championship title. The WBC plans to contact Fury next week to clarify his position, but the champion's promoter Frank Warren doesn't see any sense in this and is confident that the WBC will not be able to influence Fury in any way or deprive him of the title in his own. No one is going to tell Fury what to do. The only one who can do this is supposed Paris or himself. Warren said in an interview. The WBC has nothing to evaluate. I don't see the point in this. The deadline for mandatory protection has not yet come, so what are they going to talk about? Why would they strip him or his title? He will be deprived if he refuses mandatory protection, and he just conducted it. Will he still boxing? Who knows, Warren added. It's up to him to decide. I personally won't tell him that he needs to boxing, but I would not like him to leave now at a peak and then come back. I look at him and think that if he comes back in 2 or 3 years, he won't be at his peak anymore. Fury himself on Friday morning posted a video after a run, in which he stated that he was enjoying the end of his career. While still on the WBC heavyweight belt, Tyson Fury posted a video in stories this afternoon, where he announced something fantastic and incredible. The boxer from Morecambe, England, didn't give any hints about what this is and what is connected with. Hi, this is Tyson Fury, known as the Gypsy King. I have absolutely fantastic and incredible news that will make your jaw drop. Details are coming very soon, so watch on, Briton said. It is quite possible that no loud announcement will follow. And this is just another advertising promotion, for example, of a new line of branded clothing. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel.